So the new Aeldari Codex just dropped over the weekend, but I'm more of a Harlequins enthusiast. So the Ghost of the Webway detachment appeases me. And today, on Ops episode 37, we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about strategies and reviews on everything inside the detachment itself for Ghost of the Webway. We're going to do breakdowns on the stratagems, enhancements, army abilities, and much more. So stay tuned and locked in. So getting right into it, this is the Aeldari Army rules. This is going to directly affect the Ghost of the Webway detachment, which is purely the Harlequins, if you play them pure, as I like to play them pure, right? There are a lot of ways, and I'm going to have a lot of shows coming in the next couple of weeks where you can intermingle other units, Asuryani units, and things like that into this detachment. But we're going to continue to specifically talk about this detachment, Ghost of the Webway itself, because it's what I'm an expert in this subject matter of, right? This is one of my favorite armies, and I like to play this one pure as I can, as much as possible. They're going to be lists that I'm going to create later on. They're going to have some different units in there, but mostly it's going to be all Harlequins all the time. So for the army rules, you're going to get battle focus. So if your army faction is Asuryani, at the start of the battle round, you receive a number of battle focus tokens based on the battle size, as shown in the table below. So what this does is it gives you the ability to use agile maneuvers on the flip side of this page right here. And in most games that we play competitively, it's going to be Strike Force, which is 4 battle focus tokens. So you're going to be able to use 4 of them throughout an entire battle round. All right. And the Desperate Pass allows you to muster your army and use Harlequins in your army, even though they do not have the Asuryani faction keyword. And otherwise stated, and unless otherwise stated, you cannot select Harlequins or Yunari as your army faction, which is quite fine because I think this army does quite well by itself. I think in just tiering it in tricksy and the ability to be very tricksy, Devourers you need obviously have the more tricksy abilities. They can do a lot more things. Then you have the Harlequins, and then you have just the standard Aeldari stuff. So we're kind of sitting mid, and I think that in the future we're going to be able to shine a lot more once the meta starts picking up and we start getting more in tune and aligned with it exactly what's going on in the current meta itself. And I think Harlequins Ghost of the Webway detachment is going to perform very, very well. Obviously, that's predicated on the pilot most of the time. The army can also be an assistant to that, and lucky on your dice rolls. So just continue to practice, continue to get good, and this is what this video is going to be all about, right? Hopefully, I'm able to at least help a couple of you, 1 or 2 of you. If it just helps anyone just understand how to play Ghost of the Webway detachment just slightly better, it's a win-win for us all. So talking about agile maneuvers, right? So these are amazing pieces, tokens that you can use throughout the game. Now, these are phase lock, meaning that you can only use one of them per phase, except for Swift as the Wind, which gives a unit, that's any unit, that does a normal advanced fallback move, +2 to your move characteristic. So this is very big, right? And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a few breakdowns on every single agile maneuver so we can kind of understand exactly how it benefits us. And I'm going to get into that very soon, but I just wanted to break this down for everyone. So this is going to be an additional 2 movement to anything. That includes your Void Weavers, Star Weavers, Sky Weavers, troops, independent characters, things like that, Solitaire, right? So this is really, really big to get +2 movement up to 4 units, right? Because we have 4 battle focus, and there's no real way right now that I understand that you can get more than 4 if you're running pure Harlequins in your army. There are ways if you're running other Aeldari, but pure Harlequins, that's kind of the limit on that one. Then you have Flitting Shadows. Flitting Shadows, when an eligible unit from your army is selected to make a normal move, advance, or fallback move, it's set up on the battlefield or declares a charge, which is a lot of triggers, which I really like. Until the end of the turn, enemy units cannot use the fire overwatch stratagem to shoot at that unit. This is huge. And also, this says right here, this is affected for the entire turn. So the effect is for the entire turn. And we're going to talk about that as well. I'm going to break that down. But that's the key word. And I'm going to break down exactly why in a couple of minutes. Why turn is very, very strong. Star Engines. The trigger being for this one, when an eligible vehicle unit from your army is selected to make a normal move, until the end of the phase for the effect, add d6 plus 1 to the move characteristic of models in that unit. Sudden Strike, the trigger being when an eligible unit from your army is selected to fight, the effect being until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a pollen and consolidation move, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. Very strong for a lot of reasons. And I'm going to break that down here shortly. Opportunity Seize, the trigger being when an enemy unit ends a fallback move. Another big one, another one where I'm going to show you all the tricks and things like that. And this is going to be a multi-part series on this one. As you can see, this is part 1. I'm going to do part 2 as well, where I'm going to break down every single data sheet for the pure Harlequins and how everything can be affected and stacked on top of every single data sheet. So if Solitaire, for example, being able to fall back, move, and get +2 movement and things like that, right? So we'll talk about that here shortly. And then fade back. As always, you know, Aeldari elves like to do their fade back. So in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot, is the trigger, and the effect being one eligible unit from your army, excluding Titanic units, that was hit by one or more of those attacks can make a normal move of up to d6 plus 6. So these are amazing. You're going to end up using a plethora of them every single game. Probably Swift as the Wind, Star Engines, Flitting Shadows, Opportunity Seize, and Fade Back. Probably Sudden Strike will be least used with Harlequins, but I can see these all being used throughout the entire game. So make sure that you use them, take the opportunity to use them, and make your game more competitive for you. So talking about the army rules in particular, once again, Harlequins only get 4 battle focus for 2,000 points. The Desperate Pass allows Harlequins to be used in other detachments as well, but in particular, Agile maneuvers. So let's talk about Swift as the Wind. Now, this is where I want to start breaking down all of the strategies for this. Now that we're done with the review of just the army rules and everything you get for Agile maneuvers, I'm going to break down the Agile maneuvers in subsections and give you some strategies on how to use them and make your units even better, right? So Swift as the Wind may be used more than once per phase. It can be used for us if you're going pure Harlequins 4 times on different units. Every time you make a normal move that phase, add +2, right? Very big, great for movement, great on the Solitaire, great for all of your boats being your Void Weavers and Star Weavers. So you're going to be able to use them, go a little bit further, and do what you need to do. And just about 99% of everything in the army has assault on it, so you can advance, use this +2 movement, and also shoot with just about everything we have. Then we go on to the second one for Agile maneuvers is the Flitting Shadows. So this is where I was talking about, there's a keyword here that's very particular, and the keyword for this one, it affects the entire turn. So very good to avoid overwatch in both movement and charge phases. And then you do it again in the charge phase on another unit. So let's say there's a troop unit that you're moving around, you've lost your boat, right? And you know you want to position yourself to get into melee and engagement range to start a fight. You can use it on that unit in the movement phase so you don't get overwatch on them. And then use it on like a Solitaire in the charge phase because he's been sneaking around trying to get in position to hit another unit. So it actually affects 2 units just at different stages of that turn, one being in a movement phase and another one being in the shooting phase. So 2 units won't be able to get Overwatch, which is very, very strong. And I want to point that out again. 2 units will not be able to get Overwatch for your entire turn. Very strong. Then we have Agile maneuvers for star engines. Add D6 plus 1 to your normal move for your vehicles. This is just for your vehicles. So if you've seen this before, star engines has always been very similar to this, but this is very strong. Add D6 to your normal move. It's great for Star Weavers and Void Weavers, and also you can combine it with Swift as the Wind for D6 plus 3 movement on those vehicles themselves. All right, so then you're going to have a 14-inch moving Void Weaver or Star Weaver plus 3, so 17 plus D6 for a potential of 23 inches. You can actually move that boat. That's just incredible, right? That's just putting you in prime position to target a unit. Maybe you shoot with your unit inside of the vehicle itself to get closer with your melta guns, right? Your fusion pistols, so you can get within that 3-inch fusion pistol range, so you can get that plus melta ability. So very, very strong. Make sure that you're putting yourself in position to actually use that and be effective with it. And you can hold objectives, late game objective grabbing, things like that. So it has a lot of benefits. And we'll break that down a lot more on part 2 when I start talking about the actual data sheets themselves and how you can stack all of these abilities on top of them. Abilities being the agile maneuvers, stratagems, and hopefully enhancements as well for certain units. Then we have Sudden Strike. Sudden Strike allows you to pollen and consolidate and become 6 inches. Now, it's not as good as the Choreographer of War, which is on the Troop Master, because Sudden Strike is closest model and not closest unit. But the Troop Master has closest unit, and it doesn't have to be the closest model, which is very huge. It can put you in a position where you could try to hold an objective at the same time that you're tagging that same unit, so you don't have to go to the closest unit. So you can try to finesse this, right? This agile maneuver, this battle focus ability, where you can do multiple things. It's also great for grabbing objective markers when you're not going into another unit, right? You can just go out there and say, okay, I've destroyed this unit. Now I'm going to go 6 inches towards this objective marker. Obviously, as long as nothing else is within that range, no enemy units are within that range, because you would have to go towards them first according to the rules, right? But you can grab objective markers or get into engagement range of a new unit as well. And there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to add to this later, right? There's multiple layers to this. You get an engagement range of a new unit. Now you can potentially make them decide if they want to fall back and allow you to potentially move back, a bunch of inches, or stay locked in combat with you and allow you to destroy them in melee on their turn. Also great for moving into a Star Weaver as well, because the Star Weaver itself has the data sheet ability to allow you to get into the boat if you're wholly within 6 inches. This is really good for that, and it's very legal for that. Another agile maneuvers are the opportunity seize. So this is the one I was kind of talking about, where it forces some units to fall back, and then you can use opportunity seize and Trickster's Retort. Stratagem for a potential 13-inch move for troops as well. So you can use that to get locked in with the new unit and either say, hey, if you fall back from me, right, I'm going to move potentially 13 inches away. And because we don't care about vertical distance, I'm going to go on top of that roof, right? So very, very strong. Also can be combined with the enhancement Mask of Secrets to force enemies to decide between the two. This is another one that I wanted to bring up as well. This is the one that can be used on characters, and it forces people to take desperate escape tests, and if they're battle shocked at a -1. So you can say, hey, if you fall back, you're going to die. Or you can stay in close combat with me and you're going to die. But if you fall back, you might die couple people are gonna, a couple models are gonna die on a 1-on-2 or 3 if they're battle shock, right? And I'm going to potentially move 13 inches away. So this starts stacking. You can really see the potential now on how I'm breaking this down and how many things you can really do with this book, how many things you can really do between the stratagems and the agile maneuvers and the data sheets, and just really stack them up. Remember, this army is death by 1,000 cuts. So, and how we get defensive, how we can be defensive is by basically hiding, jumping back into boats, hiding behind ruins and things like that. That is our defense mechanism. That is what allows us to stay alive longer throughout the game. If you're not doing this, you're really not going to see the strength of this army. They really are death by 1,000 cuts, and we'll talk about that later on as well in part 2, where you're really going to have to just hit units with multiple units to make sure they die, and hopefully your DJ, the Death Jester, just finishes them off. And also, this is great for moving into a Star Weaver. Once again, a lot of these abilities allow you, because it's a normal move, right, allows you to get into Star Weavers as well, and just get into those boats and stay safe and stay away from danger. Fade back as well is a normal move of D6 plus 1 if hit by a shooting attack. And this is also great for moving into a Star Weaver or hiding behind a ruin as well. Because remember, the Star Weaver itself doesn't say you had to have made a normal move. It just says you need to be wholly within 6 inches in order to jump into that boat. So fade back as well allows you to do those things. And a lot of people, you're going to notice a lot of people doing that as well with Harlequins, where they're really just going to take that opportunity to jump out, move very far, jump out, shoot people with their fusion pistols, and jump right inside the boat once again. So the detachment rules called traveling players for the Ghosts of the Webway. Troop units from your army are battle line, and they also become objective control characteristic of 2 per model. And you can also have 3 of each of the following models in your army: 3 Death Jesters, 3 Shadow Seers, and 3 Troop Masters. On top of that, you have Acrobatic Onslaught. I love that name. Onslaught Gaming, baby. Onslaught. So Acrobatic Onslaught. Each time a Harlequin's model from your army makes a charge move, it can move through enemy models. So really good for getting through those pesky screens that people try to set up for your charges. Obviously, it's not going to help you so much when you're trying to move through them. It's not as strong as it was before for the flip belts, but it's still very strong and allows you in the charge move just to move through enemy models and without being impeded, which is very good. So that means that you just don't get stuck in by screens. Then you have Kegarok's Coil, which is part of the enhancements that we're going to talk about now. This is 25 points. The Troop Master model, each time the bearer's unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of the bearer's unit. Then roll 1d6 for each model in the bearer's unit. So your troops, right? Your troop units that is within engagement range, all right, of that enemy unit. For each 4+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds, all right? This is very beneficial if you're running fat packs of like 13 with the character attached to it for a total of 13. And this would be obviously more beneficial in those type of scenarios and those type of units. But I don't think that necessarily currently, right? I think MSU is a lot better. I don't think those fat packs of units are actually necessary. They die very fast as well, unless you're positioning yourself next to ruins where you could just fight something, run away, fight something, run away, or shoot something and run away. All right, on to the next enhancement is Mask of Secrets. So Harlequin models only. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles within engagement range of the bearer's unit, falls back, all models in that unit must take a desperate escape test. When doing so, if that enemy unit is battle shocked, subtract 1 from those tests. This is what I was talking about previously. This is very good to put on one of maybe your Shadow Seer units or something like that, right? You just plug it into her, to her, give it to her as an enhancement. Go in there and start saying, hey, you fall back because you're battle shocked, you're going to die on 1s, 2s, and 3s, period. And if you do fall back and you end up surviving, I'm going to potentially move 13 inches away from you, either back into my boat or behind a ruin or in the top of a ruin. So very strong enhancements. As you can see, I'm just trying to teach you all the strategies and tips and everything that you can use your Harlequins for your success. More enhancements. We have the Murderer's Jest. So this is on the DJ only, on the Death Jester. Each time the bearer makes an attack that targets a unit that is below half strength, each successful hit scores a critical hit. Now on face value, because this happened to me as well, on face value, this doesn't look too exciting, right? It doesn't look as strong as what it used to be before. But if you think about it, like I broke it down earlier, that we're death by 1,000 cuts, and how I mentioned the DJ is probably going to finish it off. This is exactly what this is for, right? Everything else is going to shoot things, and if it's below half strength, doesn't matter what the target is, everything is a critical hit, right? So you can put sustained hits on top of that, which is going to get crazy, right? So that's going to be 9, 9 hits itself, or 12 rather, between everything that you're going to hit, because you're going to hit on 2 pluses, right? So you're going to have a ton of successful hit rolls when it comes to cleaning off that unit. Is it going to feel like overkill? Yeah. But that's just for smaller units, right? Maybe you're targeting some monster or something like that. Maybe you're targeting a vehicle that you want to make sure that dies, right? And everything else that shot at it couldn't do that. And you're done with just about everything in your army shooting, except for the DJ. The DJ is going to take that opportunity to clean up shop and destroy that unit. And then you have the Mistweave that specifically to the Shadow Seer, right? Only the Shadow Seer model. And while the bearer is leading a unit, models in that unit have the Infiltrator's ability. Can seem very strong, right? You can take this on a fat pack of 12 troops with the Shadow Seer attached to it for 13 models in total. Give them Infiltrate. This can be very big in the meta. I've tried this one time, but since we die so quickly, and it was just the book was relatively new to me, right? I didn't end up keeping it, but I might end up changing that in the future. If you end up using that, let me know. Let me know how this ends up working out for you. Maybe it ends up working out in your meta, or you find an ability or a way to actually use this effectively. Now going on to the stratagems. So we have Stage Death. This works in any phase. One Harlequin's character model from your army that was just destroyed, you can use the stratagem on that model even though it's just destroyed. At the end of the phase, set your model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not within engagement range of enemy units, with half its starting number of wounds, which for all of our characters is going to be 2. All right, and each model can only be targeted with this stratagem once per battle. That means you can res every single character for free without having rolling the dice. This is absolutely strong. This is wonderful. Don't you hate it when you've played one particular army and they can revive on a 2-up or something like that, and you roll a 1 and you're like, that just really sucks. Not only did you spend a CP, but you also wasted your time in hopes that model will actually come back. So this is very strong. This can be used multiple times, and I'm going to break down on the second video exactly how strong this is, what unit you can use this on, right? To use it on that model, potentially get closer to a unit that you want to charge into, because this is at the end of the phase, and then fight that unit. So very, very strong. Heroes Fall. So this is another stratagem for 1 CP. This happens in the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. So one Harlequins unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, fight back on a 4+. All right? And it can fight after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks and then is removed from play. So this is just a standard fight on death on a 4+. I'm not the biggest fan on these, even though it's 1 CP only. But I'm not the biggest fan because we're usually going to have MSU, just minimum size units. And it's also on a 4+, meaning you had 4 models die, you're probably going to get 50% of those dice rolls to actually be a 4-up. So but still very strong if you need it, right? If you need to kill that unit off, or there's a character on one wound, very, very beneficial. It's very situational. So then we have another stratagem, the Mocking Flight. This is in your movement phase, just after a Harlequin's unit from your army has fallen back. That Harlequin's unit, until the end of your turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. And this is any Harlequin's unit. This also means that you can use it on Void Weavers, Sky Weavers, Star Weavers, right? You can use it on all of those units. Specifically, I think it's strongest for Void Weavers. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. Give me some information. Leave some information in the comment section, right? But I think it's very strong for the Void Weavers because you never want to get them trapped in close combat. They're not meant to fight. They're meant to shoot. You don't want to shoot at a -1, whatever you're shooting into that's an engagement range of you. So it's very nice for that unit to potentially fall back. And then you can have your entire army, including the DJ, shoot at whatever was an engagement range with that boat to try to destroy it. So it's very strong, and I'll break that down even more on part 2 of this video. Then we also have the Trickster's Retort, Ghost of the Webway. In your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal move, advance, or fall back, one troop unit from your army that is within 9 inches of the enemy unit, your unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So this is how I was stacking it up with the other ability with the Agile maneuvers, right? You get a flat 6, get a +1, so that's a flat 7 on top of your movement, and then D6 on top of that for a potential 13-inch addition too, right? So it gets pretty crazy, very strong. This is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love this detachment, and I hope that everybody does very well with this detachment. And then on to the last 2 stratagems, we have the Bloody Dance. Bloody Dance is when it happens is the end of your opponent's charge phase. One Harlequin's infantry or Harlequin's mounted, which is your Sky Weavers, from your army that is within 6 inches or more of enemy units and would be eligible to declare a charge against one or more of those enemy units if it were your charge phase. Your unit now declares a charge that only targets one or more of those enemy units. And let me just be clear here. You don't have to be charged. Your enemy doesn't have to charge anything. This just happens if you're eligible to declare a charge. That's it. And it happens in the charge phase, right? One or more of those units and you resolve that charge. Note that even if the charge is not successful, your unit does not receive any charging bonus to this turn. We're going to talk about that on part 2, which one I think is strongest for, but this could potentially be strong for a lot of units when it comes to Ghost of the Webway. And then the last one is Exit the Stage. This happens at the end of your opponent's fight phase. One Harlequin's unit from your army that is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, remove your unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. This is strong. Very, very strong. So you could do this late game. You can do this when maybe you failed, right? A potential charge that, you know, so then you don't get shot by your opponent, right? Things like that. And sorry, this happens in the end of your opponent's fight phase. So if there's something on the board that you don't want to get shot because they don't have a boat or whatever the situation is, maybe you mispositioned it in the wrong places, this is going to help you a lot. So Exit the Stage is going to be very strong. This is one Harlequin's unit, so this can be used on anything with the Harlequin's data sheet, right? It can be Void Weaver. You don't want it to get destroyed. It goes to just strategic reserves, right? Star Weaver, whatever it might be, to help you hold an objective later on. Things like that. This is very strong. Exit the Stage is a very, very strong stratagem. You're going to see, and I'm going to break that all down in the next in the next show, where I break down all of the data sheets onto there. So this is all the ones that we're going to talk about today. And give me 1 second. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed tuned and locked in throughout the entire episode of this show. I had a wonderful time breaking this down, putting this all together to give you some strategies and reviews on what the new Ghost of the Webway is going to look like in the new meta. Hopefully some of these tips and tricks allow you to understand a little bit better what you're allowed to stack. I absolutely love this. I'm super excited to see what the Harlequins are going to do when it comes into competitive play. Hopefully, we start tearing it up in the competitive scene, and hopefully, we end up on top. Right? We always want to be the best, but regardless of the situation, I'm a diehard Harlequin player. So, Ghost of the Webway Detachment, very much so, makes me super happy. I'm going to continue to use it, and I'm going to make it work sooner or later. So hopefully I'm able to go some RTT, some GT, some super majors, and start performing very well with the Ghost of the Webway. Thank you so much to everyone once again. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe as always. And don't forget, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. Take care, everyone.